Okay, thank you. So today we're gonna learn Tanya Perek Daled, and in this format, our goal is to learn all of Perek Daled. I also mentioned that in honor of this series, every week I'm going to try to bring another Tanya. So this week I brought the Tanya that was compiled by Rab Aaron Chitrik, that we all knew, where he basically collected from all around Chassidus. Come grab a Tanya, where he collected from all around Chassidus Biyurim and the Prokim. One interesting thing about this, in Perek Daled, he has a note of something that he heard from his father, that heard from Rav Alpers and Choli. So we're gonna talk about it when we get there, okay? So let's take a look, Perek Daled. Perek Daled, let me find my Perek Daled. Huh? Yeah, L'kutei Amorim, Perek Daled. So we learned that the nefesh has 10 koiches. It's nefesh alikis, nefesh abamis, 10 koiches. Ve'oid yesh l'chol nefesh alikis. Every nefesh alikis also has shloisha levushim. Okay, we're on camera, so we're going to try to. The nefesh alikis has 3 levushim, 3 garments, 3 ways that it presents itself. A levush, a garment. What is a garment? A garment is something that we put on externally, and we use it as a way to present ourselves. A person is a doctor, they put on a white coat. Right? In every profession, if you work for AT&T, you come to someone's house, you knock on the door, you have to wear a costume. You need, so there's a levush, right? It's the way that you show up. Right? So the nefesh alikis has shloisha levushim. The nefesh alikis is a nefesh, it's a spiritual force, but it has 3 garments. Sheheim, what are they? Machshava, dibur, u'maisa. Thought, speech, and action, shal tayag mitzvahs ha'Torah. It's only when our thought, speech, and action are of tayag mitzvahs ha'Torah that it's from the nefesh alikis. Right? It's the nefesh alikis' garments. When we're doing the mitzvah, the nefesh alikis got invested in doing the mitzvah. I just want to say that for me, one of the things that learning these prakim, just the beginning, the early prakim, I feel very connected with later on, when the Alter Rebbe speaks about what it means to live like a Jew, right? There's Golos HaShchina. What's Golos HaShchina? Golos HaShchina. Right? Golos HaShchina is that Hashem gives chayas to something, and that thing steals the chayas and misappropriates it. It's like the father gave the kid money to go to college to learn, and then finally he went and he's partying. You're using your father's money to go The nefesh alikis wants to do good things. When it actually does, what does it mean? What does it want to do? It wants to serve Hashem. How do you serve Hashem? With tayag mitzvahs ha'Torah. So when the nefesh alikis, he's going to specify, when a person fulfills with action, his hands and feet, all mitzvahs ma'asos. Whatever mitzvahs are action mitzvahs. Ubedibur, or with speech, who isek bepirush kol tayag mitzvahs vel chesed. In the how do I say this? In the company that we're in, I don't feel like we have to get into these. We want to learn Perek Daled in an hour. You don't have to go into Fedredlach. But there's a question here. When we look at a mitzvah, there are certain mitzvahs that are thought and feeling based. Avos Hashem. The oneness of Hashem. That's in the mind. Right? The Amunah, Ava, Yira in the heart. There are mitzvahs that are speech-based mitzvahs. You have to say Shema twice a day. What kind of mitzvah is that? It says it's Dibur. Right? It's the Pirush on all the mitzvahs. Why? You understand what I'm saying? So, perhaps the Alter Rebbe wanted to broaden that it's not only those 8, 9, 10 mitzvahs that are verbal mitzvahs. It's all 613 have a speech element. Because when you learn the halachas, every mitzvah has halachas.
You have to talk about it.
Yes, so don't tell me tefillah, kriyas shema, birchas hamozoin, and birchas. You understand what I'm saying? Oh, you have 5 mitzvahs that are mitzvahs shebedibur. No, all the Taryag mitzvahs have a dibur aspect, right? And then ubemachshava, we continue. Hu masig kol masha efshel lehasid beparas atera. Everything you could possibly understand in pshat remes drusha seid. So when a nefesh elikis engages in these behaviors, harei klolos tayag evore nafshi b'loboshim tayag mitzvah satera. So basically, the entire person, is engaged in mitzvahs of the Torah, ubikratus, in a specific way. But before we get to ubikratus, basically, there's 613 mitzvahs. They correspond to 613 body parts. So every body part has a corresponding aver in the body. So when a person learns and does and all the mitzvahs, their entire body is engaged. Then he says ubiprotos in a specific way. His intelligence is milubosha, is vested into ba'asagas hatera shehu masig bepardos. That's what the Rebbe always speaks about. A person could be learning Torah and being mevatel Torah at the same time. Like when I learn Rambam, I'm being mevatel Torah because I'm not using my right.
You're saying it.
Yeah, I'm not. So a person learns Torah, he's capable of a much deeper understanding, but he's lazy or whatever. And I learned this on the surface. So the total immersion. Total experience, completely involved.
But you have girsa meaning, right?
Yeah, but girsa is to expand your knowledge. So it's also maximizing, right? There's an element. Yeah. So if you're investing all your entire intellectual capability, whatever you can. So now your mind, likt in Torah. The Alter Rebbe now is going through part by part of the, right? Your mind is in the learning, right? I mentioned this in Shul, that about the Al-Shich. The Al-Shich lived in Sfas, where the Ari was giving shiur Shabbos afternoon. The Al-Shich was an incredible the orator. He had droshes, fantastic droshes. He wanted to hear what the Arizal has to say. He came and he fell asleep. He's very bothered by it. So the Ari told him that his neshama, the shayrish, is in the world of drush, not of soid. So this does blank nichts. Like when we talk about, we say, oh, the Agat Shover was a Lubavitcher. Right? But his field wasn't soid. His field was, pshat, remes, So the Alter Rebbe says it's also based on your shayrish haneshama. But now the Alter Rebbe addresses a question. He says, let's look inside. He told us in Perek Gimel that we have 10 spheres. Chochmah, Bina, Das. Then we have Chesed. Where do Chesed and Gvura have expression in serving Hashem? Either I do things, or I speak, or I learn. So when you talk about Seichel, obviously my mind is involved in Jewish things. I'm learning. Learning is intelligence. But where is my emotion? How do Midas find expression in Avodas Hashem? So the Alter Rebbe has a question. Everything after Yira and Ava, Chesed, Tiferes, Netzach, Yesod, Malchus, those are like the branches of mitzvah. The Alter Rebbe says, I want you to know that Milubasha is Pekiyum HaMitzvahs. Emotion is invested in the things you do are backed by your feelings. The Maisa Ubedibur. What does Dibur mean? Dibur is Talmud Torah. Dibur is Talmud Torah, which is Keneged Kulan, so it's a very significant mitzvah. It's not one out of 613. Because the mitzvah of Talmud Torah is Keneged Kulan. And in Talmud Torah, we have heart. There's feeling behind this mitzvah. Why? How is that? He says, Ki ha'avahi sheirish kol ramach mitzvahs aseh. Because the 248 mitzvahs, their sheirish is love for Hashem. So, we can't verbringen after ma ganze Nacht, just on this line. But the point is, the emes, the Alter Rebbe writes in Perek Memalef, all of us know that Yira is the Reishis, right? Yira is the root of all Avodah. Yira is also the root of Ava, and all the mitzvahs aseh. That's why he's very selective. He chooses the word shoirish. What is a root? We all know the English word siphon.
It's like a foundation?
Siphon. Siphon? To be alive, the roots have to be drinking. So in order for mitzvahs to be lebedik mitzvahs,
has to be connected to the source.
Right. They have to be drawing. I have to be passionate about what I'm doing. If we talk about a relationship, if I do things in a careless way, right? Whatever. So if I do things without emotion, I may do them, but they're dry. A lebedik ezach has feeling behind it. It has passion behind it. So Ava it nurtures. Also in the commentaries on Tanya, they say basically if a person is not passionate about the mitzvahs, there's not going to be any hidur mitzvah. He's going to get, for $25, he'll get a set of lulav and esrog. Like why should I spend more money? So the hidur mitzvah, the excitement, even that it should endure, that it should, So Ava is the shayrish. Yira make sure that I should do it. But that it should be lebedik. Ava is the shayrish of Korah Mach Mitzvahs Aseh, including, by the way, Yira. Because that's also a Mitzvah Aseh. Umimena heinim shochas. Huh? Yeah. Ubilodo, without Avas Hashem, ein lohem kiyum amiti. They're not going to have a true. He's not doing it l'shem shamayim. It's not going to be. They don't have a real. They're not. There's an interesting vert, right? In other words, it's like a body without a soul. Elepnisht. It's not. Yeah. So he continues. Elam kiyomiti. Yeah. Kamakaim on be'emes, a person who fulfills mitzvahs. Be'emes, meaning for the right purpose. I want to bring the Eibishter into the world. So Hamakaim on be'emes, who? Ha'oyev Hashem Hashem. V'chafetz l'daka be'emes. What motivates him to do the mitzvahs? He wants to be close to the Eibishter. And that's the only way. V'ef shel l'davka be'emes. There's no other way. Ki in. It's only by when I do the 248 mitzvahs, I am Hashem's arms and legs. Hashem is a ruchni. We act for Him. Shehem Ramach Evar in the Malka Kivyochel, the mitzvahs are the 248 limbs of Hashem Kivyochel. I mentioned the word Kivyochel is a composite of two words. Chav Beis Yochel. Yeah, Chav Beis Yochel. What does it mean? It means that we can't dare to say that when we do a mitzvah, we're Hashem's hands and feet. Are you kidding me? Wer seien wir seien Abosser Vadam. Aber as steht in Teure, the Teure can sagen, if Hashem says that that's the way it is, then that's what it is. So the mitzvahs are called Ramach Kulin, as steht in Zohar, as steht, right? Chazal say. So it's not, I'm not saying it, he's saying it. Chav Beis is the 22 letters of the Torah. Chav Beis is it. The Hayira, he, Sheirish, L'shasa, Loisasa, the Yira, yeah. Why doesn't he do an Aveira? Kiyori limited is afraid to rebel. That's the basic Yira. He's afraid to rebel. What's he afraid of? He's afraid of punishment. He's afraid to speed because he's going to get a ticket. He's not afraid that maybe he's going to crash and he's going to get hurt. He's afraid of the camp. He's going to get punished. There's a deeper Yira, Yira Eloi, that he's embarrassed. I'm in the presence of Hashem. How could I defy Him? How could I go? How could I rebel? Yeah, he's here. Hashem is I'm in His presence. How could I do something? I love Him. How could I bring into my life klippes v'sitra achver?
It's more of a bushes than
yeah. Yeah. Asher Yenikosam, where do klippes get their energy from? From us. Me'odem atachim. Fa'achizosam, by how do they latch on to us? Through b'shasam mitzvahs later. So when a person doesn't have Veda, that's what gives them chayas. Okay, now, continues, v'hine. So he established that the midas are, where do the midas of the nefesh, where are they vested? Where are the midas of the nefesh alikis involved? In the mitzvahs, Maisa and Dibur. That's where they're, in the mitzvahs that are like action mitzvahs. You need to be motivated to do it. That's what they are.
Talmud Torah is important mitzvah. It's include everything, but it's required Dibur. Dibur is not like...
Right. But the emotional part is the motivation.
But I'm coming back when we say Dibur Talmud Torah, it's other way. Talmud Torah requires Dibur. It's not like we say brochas, it's a mitzvah. Talmud Torah by itself mitzvah, but it's required to perform, you need to express through the
Yeah, you have to speak. Right, so the levush of Dibur is the mitzvah of Talmud Torah. The mitzvah of Talmud Torah is the nefesh alikis.
Nefesh alikis express itself in the levush of the
Dibur.
Even the ones that have dibur, you have to have should have to go higher. You can't just read.
In what?
Even if it's they're dibur technically valid, you can't just read it.
Right. Yeah. It also has. It's supposed to have the intent as well. Yeah. Now, in the next paragraph is one of the big, like one of the main ideas of Perek Dalet. Okay? Usually, when you talk about a levush, right? Usually when you talk about a levush is less valuable, the garment is less valuable than the guf. Right? A person's body, and they have a garment. So obviously the garment is less valuable than the body. There's a nefesh alikis, and the nefesh alikis has a levush. The levush is an accessory. So he says, but here, what is the levush? The levush itself is the Torah. It's Hashem. Because you're learning and you're doing Hashem's will. It's a mitzvah of Hashem. So in this case, the levush is actually much greater than the nefesh alikis itself. And of course, there's a little bit of a dance, the Goy Madregas, which one's higher, the Yidden did it, but the point is, the nefesh alikis is you. The Torah, that's the Eibishter. I just want to say it's the same thing in the opposite. When a person doesn't have Torah, you have a Nefesh Abamis. But when you act with the Nefesh Abamis, it's much lower. Right? When your Nefesh Abamis uses Machshava Dibur Maisa, when it actually
Downgrade.
does the Aveira, yeah, it's a downgrade. So here, let's see how he says it. Shloisha levushim elu, these three levushim, which come to you, me'atayra u'mitzvayseha, that the Nefesh Elikis is enclothing himself, is enwrapping himself in Torah mitzvahs. Af shenikroim levushim leNefesh Ruach HaNeshama, even though we call them a levush, im kol zeh, still, gavha v'godla ma'aloso, they're higher, they're greater, le'ein kates v'soif, they're endlessly greater, al mailas Nefesh Ruach HaNeshama atzman, on the Nefesh Ruach HaNeshama itself. In other words, he's being very specific. Nefesh Ruach HaNeshama are Briya Yitzira Asiya, even by the greatest tzaddikim. Are the Nefesh of the Nefesh Elikis. The Nefesh part is the part that's in the body. It's like, it's Ruchnius, but it's a low level. It's being Mechaya Guf. The Torah that you learn, that's actually Elikus. And the Alter Rebbe is going to explain in the second half of the Perek that Torah, even though the Torah came down into the Gashmias of the world, it's like water. Water falls down from the clouds. It's the same water. It's still water.
So technically, are we using the wrong analogy? Is that basically the problem? Or
What do you mean the wrong analogy?
that we're trying to say that they're levushim, but they're not really levushim.
They are levushim because
they're secondary to the existence of the
no, they're levushim because they're things that I put myself into. They're accessories.
Okay, but
I bring them.
Accessories are different than.
Right, I bring them into my life. So, what does the Zayar mean when it says that? He doesn't mean that the Torah is Hashem's opinion. He means that it's mamash one. Torah and Hashem. It doesn't mean that they're knotted together nicely. It's not klas kishrin.
Right, so that's the question. Like in our language, there's something that's either more.
No, because for us it's a levush. Even in creation of the world, we say in Baruch Nafshi, Torah is a levush. Oita kasama, Torah is Torah. And it says Hashem wraps around the Torah like a cloak. So there is this analogy, because Torah operates with words and letters,
But
that's why
in our definition of words, what words are and letters are, the Torah, it doesn't add up. It doesn't translate into that. Because for us, words are separate to who you are. They express something, but they're not you. And in Torah, words are the Torah, and
okay.
they are the
Okay.
So
Alter Rebbe will do this assumption later in Tanya. He said, whatever you say doesn't make it separated from Hashem.
Right.
He makes the assumption here.
Right. Yeah. Kameshikosu b'zeh. The Iraisa Pirush. The Iraisa, what is the Torah? He chachmase u'ritzoynei shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Torah is not it's like when people say, oh, the rabbi bought me a mezuzah. That was so nice. What happened to the thing inside? Oh, I threw out the instructions. Right? The Torah is not Hashem giving instructions how we should live in this world. No. The Torah is Hashem's thoughts to himself.
they are the word.
Here, could you pass the Tanya to Dave Ber Yeshkoya?
Also, it's also
Shalom Dave Ber.
There's one on that side too if you want a bigger print.
No, this one doesn't. It's complicated to stay open.
This is the trick one. Down
Yeah.
This is available on Facebook?
Yeah, right now it's
Right.
the Remember, if something is part of Hashem, Hashem doesn't have components. Hashem doesn't have components. Hashem doesn't have parts. Hashem is right. It's all one. Like the Rambam says, Ki hu hayodeya v'hu amada. Hashem is the knower and the knowledge. He's the science. V'chulu. Like the Rambam said earlier. So it's mamish. Now the Alter Rebbe asks, we're going to get back to it, but the Alter Rebbe asks a question. How could you say that when a person does a mitzvah, that's Hashem? Are you kidding? Hashem is infinite. You know, every mitzvah is like a measured thing, like this, like that. So I don't understand. Torah is all measured. So he's asking a question. The Eibusher is called the Infinite One. And we have another pasuk that v'ligdolosei ein cheker. We can't investigate His greatness. And thirdly, we have this phrase in Chazal that v'leis machshavat tfisa beklal, right, in Kabbalah, that in other words, the Akdama of the Zer, Tikkun Zer, what Eliyahu Navi says, there's no mind could grasp him. And now you're telling me that he's in the Torah. V'chein, so too, Birtzoyne, not only HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself, but Hashem's will and Hashem's wisdom are also infinity. They're also beligvul. Remember, I like this mashal, that's why I'm going to repeat it, this concept. Why is it, the Alter Rebbe explains, anything that's Hashem is less machshavah tfisadeh. Anything Hashem does, less machshavah tfisadeh. So if someone comes along and says, oh, Hashem created the world, right? Hashem created the world, you can't understand it. It's impossible. Why? Because if He did it, just like we can't understand Hashem, we can't understand His actions. So people would rather say that the world is 250 billion years, and things that are so absurd, but abi nish creation. Because if you say creation, you're totally crazy. Why? Because it being that Hashem created the world, so it's less machshavah tfisadeh. We can't understand that. Yeah. So he says, v'chein, not only is Hashem infinite, not only is Hashem ein sof, ritzoynoi, Hashem's will, which is mitzvahs, and the chachmaseh, Hashem's wisdom, Torah, is also ein sof. And now he brings three psukim. Kidiksiv.
But again, the ritzoynoi and the chachmaseh, the Eibush,
it's all one.
Is expressed for us to try to understand that this is his Rosh and this is Chachma, but the reality is, like you said, it's one. It's nothing separate from the Eibush.
Yeah, but there's kosher, posel, chayiv, potur, right? Chayiv, zakai. That's the rotzin. The rotzin is the decision, right? The din, that's the rotzin. And then the chachma is the svara behind. So we have three psukim. Ein cheker l'zvunasa. You cannot investigate his tvuna, his being. Uksiv ha-cheker alekatim. So, can you investigate Hashem? Right? Aleka, Hashem. Uksiv, again, it's not boire, right? Can you understand Hashem? What Hashem's existence is? Uksiv, the third pasuk is my thoughts are not your thoughts. These three psukim, they say, correspond with Memale kol almin is the last one. Seviv kol almin. Kilei machshvei sechem is Memale. Hacheker lekatimtza is Seviv. And ein cheker l'svunasei is ein sof. Ein sof. Beyond. What we call atzmus. Hini alze amru. So we need a teretz. How could you tell me that when a person does it, when a person learns Torah, he's grasping the Eibishter? Let's machshavat Hashem is ein sof. Says Hini alze amru. The response is the mokim In the place that Chazal say, the Gemara says, in the place where you find Hashem's greatness, that's where you find His humility. Hashem squeezed, Hashem condensed, right? Hashem condensed. So I mentioned, I'm showing this Tanya every week, right? This Tanya is compiled by Rabbi Chitrik, Olav Shalom, who lived on Empire Boulevard. He collected from all over Hasidus little comments and biurim on the Prakim Tanya. And here he writes one thing. He says, "My father told me that he heard a shiur from Rab Alter Simchovich in Lubavitch. His father was in Lubavitch, and he said he gave the mashal. He says that when it says that the Hashem it says in Gemara, Tzimtzim Shchinase Bein Shnei Badei Orim. Hashem squeezed the Shechina between the two sticks of the Orim in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Here, the word Tzimtzum doesn't mean Tzimtzum the way we use it in general.
Right.
Right? Tzimtzum doesn't mean he reduced. It's not a contraction, a reduction. He didn't say, oh, let me take a 220 wire, I'm going to split it, and I'm going to make it a 110. Tzimtzum means a nano... what do they call? What's that? No
Resistor.
In physics, the micro.
Yeah.
The atoms?
No, whatever. It's. I'm sorry. I'm not into it. Anyway, right? In other words, that the greatest Hashem took all of Himself, the anoichi of Himself, and He condensed it into between the two staves of the Aron. That's actually where Hashem is, between the two staves of the Aron. Hashem actually condensed Himself into the Torah. Not that He was mitzamtim, that He's not all there, just the ha'ara and ha'ara, the ha'ara. No. Actually, He Himself, that's where He is. That's the vitzimtzim. Tzimtzim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Ritzeinu v'chachmasi. Hashem's condensed Himself, His wisdom, and His will into Tayag Mitzvah Torah, Ubehil Chesein, Ubitzurufi Eisias Tanakh, in the letters of Tanakh, V'drashei Sehen, Sheba Agadis U'Medrashei Chachamenu Zal, the psukim of the Torah, the stories in the Agadis of Torah, Hashem put Himself into, Bichdei, so that Kol HaNeshama, Ruach v'nefesh v'guf adam, that every person, either at the level of neshama or at the level of ruach, in other words, either at the intellectual level or at the emotional level, or from a place of action, or from nefesh v'guf adam, tuchal hasigon b'daito, that you could understand them, you could comprehend them, you could wrap your head around it, and you could be mekayim kol ma she'efshel lekayim, everything you could possibly fulfill. So
it's came like God in details from this?
Yeah.
It can be clever God. It's full.
Yeah, valideza. By doing so, now he goes back to the Eser Spheres of the previous parak. These three levushim are the extensions of Chacham V'Das Chazavut V'Das Yisrael Malchus, that it's all B'chol Eser B'Chinesah B'Shleish Levushim Elu, in these three levushim. Now the Rebbe says, yeah, V'Lachein Nimshela HaTorah L'Mayim. That's why the Torah is compared to water. Water falls from the highest place. Yeah, over here you can a whole drasha. We know that the Elikus we call it oir, right? Sometimes we call it oir, and we call it chayes, and we call it shefa. What does shefa mean? Shefa means that it's substantive. Hashem, like we're going to take water. There's a waterfall. It doesn't matter how far the water goes; it's still water. It doesn't change. It comes from the clouds. It hits the earth. It's still water. From the highest place to the lowest place. Torah, the way it is in Hashem's wisdom, and then the way it comes down here in a mitzvah that we understand, it's all still the same. It's all Hashem's wisdom. It didn't change. It didn't get diluted. It's the same water. says, "V'lachein nimshla Torah l'mayim." That's why the Torah is compared to water. There's also Torahs on tzad yamin. Torah is also on the right side. Right? Water is cool. Right? When you go swimming in the sea, right? I'm not talking about Chamei Tiveria. And even when water gets hot, it has a limit.
And it loses its
Right?
of water.
Yeah.
It
So water.
spring water below temperature it stays at like below ground. Stays at like 50. What is it? It's like,
I don't know.
the way of energy
Geysers.
where they drill down and they take water from the ground. It's consistent. Always at like 50 cooling and heating. It's the best. It's the cheapest thing. You never go more than like 15 degrees in that direction. That's a steady. It always, no matter where you go, below at that level, it's 100 feet, whatever it is. 50 feet.
Just like water. What do we find by water? They descend from a high place to a low place and they remain water. So to Hatayra. It came down from its place of glory. Hashem's will and wisdom. Completely one with Hashem. Less machshavat tvisa beklal, from a place where no one umisham, from that fantastic place of being mamish a piece, a shtik ebishter. Nasa v'yarda, a journey, and it descended b'seser amadregas, imadrega l'madrega. They say that like I don't know what the chap is with this idea of the shvindel trap. You know, the spiral staircase, like you have a pole, right? In other words, like, okay, so what's the significance of this?
The significance is that you're able, in a small distance,
right? But the significance Kabbalistically is that
it's the same thing.
Even though you're going down,
you're not going
far. You're still, you turn away, but then you're facing again. You turn away, but you're still
staying in a very small space.
Right, but you're still facing the same direction. You keep coming around. You turn away, but you keep coming back to face the. So there's some element of mystery, or there's something about it Kabbalistically. There's some kind of significance. I don't know that it's not a regular staircase where you're just going down. There's something about it that it's b'seis ramadregus. So
you're always returning to the same spot that you started.
Right,
but now you're slower.
Yeah. So. It's
basically trying, I guess, to bring the point that whether you go high or low,
it's still
you remain in the same spot that you started. So you think you're going high, you think you're going low, but you're essentially in the same spot.
Yeah, good, okay. Until the Torah actually is vested in, it plays out in physical objects. In Dvarim Gashmim, Shehein Reiv Mitzvahs HaTorah Kekulam. The vast majority of mitzvahs are based on physical objects. Yeah, the Hilchei Seir and their halachas. And then even further, B'tzirufei Esi is Gashmias, B'diyai ala Sefer, ink on parchment, Esrim V'arbas Dvarim Sheb'Torah V'yim Uksuvu. It's mamish, a physical object. Kedei, the Torah descended. Why? So that Shetehei Kol Machshavet Tisabah, that any person could grasp Torah, not only with their thought, but Va'afilu B'chinas Diburo Ma'isa Shalom Matam V'adreigas Machshavah. Even the lower, the more base qualities of the human being can also be tfisa b'hem. Not only tfisa, umislabeshes b'hem. Not only can they grip, but they can vest themselves.
Here it seems like you're making a point that even though it doesn't lose any of its potency, and it's still what it is, but there's some kind of a special transformation that even in the level of seichel, it's lowering the level on even on our level, so to speak. On the lowest level of our seichel, there's still levels of where it's saying that even on the lower level, it would work.
Right. Our experience with Torah is complete. It's holistic. It's not superimposed on the human being.
No, it seems like it's not even relative so much to this seichel of the seichel, so to speak.
We have here for this levushim. We can make it
Right, but what he's saying is one part of the Torah is the learning, the thinking. Okay, but thinking
is limited.
is also a spiritual place.
Yeah, because it's not visible. I can see your action, I can see your zibur, but what you think,
Right.
it's not expressed.
It's like they say some people learn better when they act out. It's like, let's say when you learn rhythm.
Some people
right? When you learn rhythm, so with a nigun, so some people they'll say you have to tap or you're not going to feel it.
To connect it.
Yeah, right. Some people they're playing the violin, but with their feet, with their heel or their toes, they're tapping. Right? I have to feel it in my body. Not only is Torah in your brain, you feel it in your body. Your mamish. It was Yorda mamish. Into Gashmis.
You were shaking with this.
Yeah. Right? So, in that way, being that our entire experience becomes engaged in the fulfillment of mitzvahs. Our whole body has the opportunity to be connected with mitzvahs by fulfilling the mitzvahs. So what happens, even though we're in a Gashmiyazdika world, and we have a Nefesh HaBahamis, but really, my whole essence is connected to Hashem. Harei kula tzrura b'tzreira chayim es Hashem mamish. It's completely enwrapped with Hashem mamish. Literally, the light of Hashem surrounds it from head to toe. In other words, there's in the body and there's a surrounding the body. It's like it crowns the person and it's in the person. Like the Pasuk says, Tsuri, my rock, Echesaboy, I'm protected by him, right? Uksiv, and it says katsino, like a shield, like body armor. Ratzain, Hashem's will to atrenu surrounds us. Okay, so those are the two inyanim. They say that in the first edition of Tanya, they have in the Rebbe's library. So over here, by this pasuk, Katsina Ratzon Te'atrenu, there's a little written note on the side that says that this is the Rosh Tevis Keser. Okay, Hashem's will. That the will of Hashem, that the mitzvahs become like a body armor. Now we conclude. Okay, now that we understand that when a person learns Torah,
Not in the same.
right, not in the same, yeah.
Where's the time from?
I don't know who. In other words, the first edition. Wait, I don't know who bought it or
I'm
who.
saying it's just the first edition that was printed.
The one that was printed in the lifetime of the Alter Rebbe.
By the
No, Slavit was later. Yeah.
But it's not like for roses, maybe someone
Right.
plated.
So
So
yeah,
that's-
we're talking about
So we're just talking about the first.
the original Tanya.
First
Kafkuf
Tanya.
Lantas.
wedding, we
It's
have
a
one.
wedding, it's a wedding.
I have that time.
Yeah, sure.
It out.
Yeah, sure.
Sure, it's not.
I'll tell you a little bit about it. Right, I'll tell you a little bit about it. We'll finish, and that's why it says, Yafo Shah Achas B'tshuva Masim Tevim Be'elam Hazeh. One moment in this world, in tshuva, connecting to Hashem, and doing good deeds. is greater than Mikol Chaya Olam Haba, from all of the world of Olam Haba, meaning Gan Eden. Because what is Olam Haba? Olam Haba is Shenen and Miziv HaShechina. We enjoy a ray of the Shechina. Shahu Tainug HaSaga, the pleasure of understanding. We can't understand Hashem. Ve'i efsher l'shum nivra. Afilu mehel yonim, the greatest malach can't grasp lahasid ki'im eze ha'ara me'er Hashem. It can only understand a fragment. That's why it's called Ziv HaShechina. Aval HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'chvei v'atzmei. That's machshav tfisa beklal. No mind could grasp Hashem. Ki'im, the only way to grasp Hashem is in mitzvahs. Kasher tfisa mislaveshes b'teiro mitzvah. And that we can only do in this world. Over here, there's a correction.
It's not an union of grasping, it's an union of becoming one with. I mean, you're still not grasping it, you're just becoming connected to it.
No, he's saying tfisa.
Understand.
He's going to speak more about it.
Tfisa is in union of seif.
Yeah. Azai tfisa u'mislaveshes b'akadosh baruch hu mamash.
But I don't want to have a God whom I understand, right?
Huh?
I don't want a God whom I can understand.
But that's not in Torah. That's theologically, or right when we're talking about it. So Alter Rebbe is asking the question: how could you tell me that by doing mitzvahs I'm grasping Hashem? By learning Torah, what am I learning in Torah? Shnayim yechzim b'talis. That's Hashem. So he says, he brings a mashal. It's, for example, someone who's hugging a king. There's no difference. You're not hugging a king better if the king is wearing a coat less. It's not like I hugged the king when he was in a shirt, and you hugged the king when he was wearing this coat. You're hugging the king. There's no difference in the level of closeness, in the connection. You see how close we are? In the milas hiskarvus, in the dveikus, bein mechapik shulavish levushachot, whether he's wearing one garment, bein shulavish kam levushim. The guf hamelech is in it. What difference does it make? So here too, the Torah, Hashem is condensed into Shnayim Meichzim B'talis, but it's Hashem.
This is the brought up the king because of the election. It's not just the election. So too, if the king grabs onto you, not before he said if you're hugging the king. So how about if Hashem is hugging you, which is when we do mitzvahs? Your arm is you have a sleeve on. Doesn't matter. Because of the Hashem is holding up. Right? So there's both sides, and this really leads into what he's going to talk about in the beginning of the next parak, that in the Seichel, the connection that we have with Torah is Yichud Niflo. It's we jump into what we learn, we're in it, and it's in us. Right? We dive in and we become submerged. We become submerged and we surround it. Right? We wrap our arms around it.